In May 2022, Ukrainian spotters watched something unfold on the Siversky-Donets River that would change how the Pentagon views the next major war, and why America is betting $252 million on a 23-foot boat called the M30 Bridge Erection Boat. A Russian battalion tactical group, approximately 550 soldiers, dozens of armored vehicles, and an entire PMP pontoon bridge system tried to force a crossing in broad daylight. What happened next became one of the most studied military disasters of the 21st century. Drone-directed artillery turned that river into a kill zone. According to the Institute for the Study of War, 485 Russian soldiers were killed or wounded. The crossing site became a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered ambitions. Here's the problem. The United States hasn't conducted a contested river crossing against a near-peer adversary since World War II, and senior leaders are asking an uncomfortable question. Could American forces do any better? The answer depends entirely on that M30 Bridge Erection Boat. Right now, 393 of them are rolling off a production line in Denver, Colorado, part of a program to completely overhaul how American combat engineers cross rivers under fire. But here's what they're not telling you. The Army just tested something at Fort Leonard Wood that could make even these brand new boats obsolete before they finish delivery. An unmanned version, operated from a remote ground station. No crew exposed to enemy fire. This is the story of the M30 and why it might be the most important weapon system you've never seen. Let's start with a fundamental reality most people overlook. In modern warfare, rivers aren't just obstacles, they're killing grounds. The Siversky-Donets disaster proved what military planners have feared for decades. In the age of drone swarms and precision artillery, any force trying to build a bridge is painting a target on its back. The Russians made almost every mistake possible. They deployed their PMP pontoon bridge system, the same Soviet-era equipment that's been in use since the 1960s, at a single crossing site instead of multiple simultaneous crossings. They operated in daylight. They failed to suppress Ukrainian artillery or establish air defense. And according to Ukrainian engineers who conducted reconnaissance at the site, it would take at least 2 hours to build a pontoon bridge of that scale. 2 hours of soldiers standing exposed on open water. Ukrainian reconnaissance teams had already identified the crossing site. They'd pre-registered artillery coordinates. When the Russians showed up exactly where expected, it was a massacre. Now here's the mystery. U.S. Army doctrine says a wet gap crossing is one of the most dangerous and complex operations any force can undertake. It requires corps-level coordination, tens of thousands of soldiers synchronized across multiple domains. But the Army's engineer units typically operate at battalion level under brigade combat teams. They're not structured for large-scale combat operations against a peer adversary. Worse, there's a critical shortage of military occupational specialty, 12 Charlie Bridge crew members, the personnel who actually operate these systems in combat. Retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, the former commander of U.S. Army Europe, put it bluntly to Defense News, the U.S. clearly does not have enough river crossing capability. And nowhere is this more critical than places like the Suwalki Gap, the 65-mile corridor between Poland and Lithuania that represents NATO's most vulnerable choke point. Multiple rivers cross that terrain, and any conflict there would require contested wet gap crossings under the most dangerous conditions imaginable. So what changed? In 2013, the Army awarded Burden America a contract to replace the MK2 Bridge Erection Boat, a platform that had been in service for nearly 30 years, dating back to 1984. These boats had crossed the Tigris and Euphrates during Iraq. They'd patrolled combat zones. They'd built bridges everywhere from the Balkans to Afghanistan. But they were cable-operated relics of 1980s technology. If something broke on the water, you couldn't fix it. The controls were clunky, and in an era where seconds matter, they were too slow. The M30 was supposed to fix everything. Keep this in mind. The Army originally planned for a simple upgrade. What they got instead was a complete redesign, and a propulsion system so different from conventional boats that it changes what combat engineers can do in the water. But we'll get to that in a moment. First, you need to understand what these boats actually do, because this isn't about racing across rivers. It's about holding position in currents while maneuvering multi-ton bridge sections into place, and doing it while people are trying to kill you. The improved ribbon bridge is the Army's standard floating bridge system for wet gap crossings. It's been in operational use since the early 2000s, and it's a marvel of modular engineering. Individual bridge bays, large metal pontoon sections, are transported on heavy expanded mobility tactical trucks. When engineers reach a river, those bays get launched into the water. Bridge erection boats then catch them, maneuver them into position, and hold them steady while crews connect the sections. A 100-meter bridge can be assembled in approximately 30 minutes with a trained multi-role bridge company. The system can support military load class 96 wheeled vehicles and MLC 80 tracked vehicles, heavy enough for the M1A2 Abrams tanks and other NATO main battle tanks, including the Leopard 2 and Challenger 2. In 2003, the 502nd Multi-Role Bridge Company built a 580-meter floating bridge across the Tigris River into Crete during Operation Iraqi Freedom. It was the longest float bridge ever constructed in a combat zone. But here's what they missed. The bridge bays are the easy part. The hard part is the boats. Think about what they're doing. A river isn't a lake. It's a dynamic environment with currents, debris, and unpredictable conditions. The boats need enough thrust to hold multi-ton bridge sections stationary against that current while crews connect them. They need enough precision to position those sections within inches of each other. And they need to do this while potentially taking fire. The old Mk2 boats used conventional propeller systems with cable-operated controls. They worked. But propellers have a fundamental limitation. They're exposed. In debris-filled combat waters, the kind you find in places like Iraq, props get damaged. They ingest debris. They fail. The Army needed something different. They needed a propulsion system that could operate in abrasive, debris-littered water without damage. Something that could provide high thrust at low speeds for precision maneuvering. Something that could take punishment and keep running. What they got was a water jet system that pumps high volumes of water at low RPMs, generating exceptional thrust while minimizing cavitation. No exposed propellers. Nothing to snag on debris. And here's the real kicker. This wasn't an off-the-shelf solution. Burden America owns a subsidiary called Namjet. They designed the propulsion system specifically for this mission. It's the same technology now being used in amphibious assault vehicles for multiple NATO allies. But the propulsion system was just the beginning. The M30 Bridge Erection Boat looks like something out of a military catalog. Low profile, aluminum hull, twin engines mounted on the stern. At 23 feet long and 10 feet wide, it's shorter but wider than its predecessor. But that's surface level. The real innovations are under the skin. Layer 1, the propulsion. Each M30 is powered by twin Cummins QSB 6.7 multi-fuel engines, each producing 248 horsepower. Those engines drive Namjet TJ-38 1HH hydrojets, a design specifically engineered for high thrust at low speeds. Here's why that matters. Conventional water jets are optimized for speed. They pump water at high revolutions, which is great for going fast but creates cavitation at lower speeds. Cavitation is essentially the formation of vapor bubbles, and it destroys thrust efficiency when you need precise, powerful maneuvering. The Namjet system inverts that approach. It pumps more water at lower RPMs, maintaining thrust even when the boat is holding position against a current. The result? Speeds of 24 to 26 knots, but more importantly, the ability to push and hold bridge sections weighing multiple tons. Layer 2, the crew reduction. The Mk2 had a total maximum personnel capacity of 15. The M30 reduces that to just 6 total, with the boat fully capable of operating with just 2 crew members. That sounds like a downgrade. It's not. Remember what happened on the Siversky-Donets. More soldiers on the water means more casualties when artillery starts falling. The M30's reduced crew requirement means fewer 12 Charlie Bridge crew members exposed during the most dangerous phase of bridge construction. And with the current shortage of qualified 12 Charlie personnel, every specialist matters, and the controls are dramatically simplified. The old cable-operated systems required significant training and experience. The M30 uses a twin-lever throttle control with embedded diagnostics. If something goes wrong, the system tells you what and where. Yes, but actually, here's where it gets interesting. The Mk2 couldn't be repaired on the water. If cables snapped while underway, that boat was out of the fight until it could be recovered. The M30's hydraulic and electronic systems can be serviced while floating. Combat engineers can troubleshoot and repair without returning to shore. In an operation where every boat matters, that capability could be decisive. Layer 3, survivability. The Army added something the Mk2 never had: ballistic protection. Crew positions on the M30 include armor to protect against small arms fire and shrapnel. It's not tank armor. This is still a 23-foot boat. But for crews operating in contested waters, It's the difference between coming home and not. Wait, it gets better. In the week of May 5th, 2025, Burden demonstrated something at Fort Leonard Wood that rewrites what's possible. Working with Glendinning Controls, they showcased an upgraded M30 that can operate almost entirely unmanned. Remote launch from ground transport vehicles, remote maneuvering of bridge sections, remote rafting operations, all controlled from a ground control station. This isn't a prototype concept. This is retrofittable technology for the existing fleet. Top leadership from the U.S. Army's bridging community watched engineers conduct a nearly unmanned bridging mission without exposing anyone to the kill zone. The implications are staggering. Remember, the Russians lost an entire battalion trying to cross a river in daylight. With unmanned bridging capability, American engineers could potentially construct a crossing while the operators sit safely behind cover. The Army Research and Development Center is now actively pursuing fully autonomous bridging solutions through its EDCWERX initiative. They want boats that can self-navigate, self-propel, and work in coordinated formations with minimal human input. The M30 wasn't designed to be autonomous, but its electronic architecture is proving adaptable enough to support that future. Sweden and the Netherlands are already ordering BEBs with updated systems specifically to enable integration with developing autonomous technologies. So what does all this mean strategically? Start with Europe. The continent is crisscrossed by rivers that would become major obstacles in any large-scale conflict. The Danube, the Vistula, the Rhine. These aren't just geographic features. They're potential defensive lines that any advancing force would need to cross. And the most critical of all is the Suwalki Gap. This 65-mile corridor between Poland and Lithuania is NATO's most vulnerable choke point, crossed by multiple rivers including the Neman and Sisupi. Any conflict there would require contested wet gap crossings under constant observation and fire. Exactly the scenario the M30 was designed to survive. NATO has been practicing. During Defender 24 exercises in May 2024, the 43rd Multi-Role Bridge Company conducted wet gap crossings in Poland, alongside British forces from the 12th Armored Brigade Combat Team, moving armored vehicles, including warriors, across the Drava River. These exercises aren't academic. They're direct preparation for scenarios everyone hopes never materialize. Then there's the Pacific. General Ronald Clark, commander of U.S. Army Pacific, noted at the Center for Strategic and International Studies that any Chinese attempt to invade Taiwan would require crossing an 80-mile wet gap under constant observation. We're talking about an adversary that has to cross an 80-mile wet gap that's being watched by an unblinking eye. He said, "The Taiwan Strait isn't a river, obviously, but the same principles apply to contested waterway operations throughout the Indo-Pacific theater." The Army is restructuring how it thinks about gap crossing. Historically, engineer brigades providing bridging capability have been core-level assets. But during the Remagen Ready exercise at Fort Cavazos in fall 2023, the 36th Engineer Brigade was placed under division control, the 1st Cavalry Division, to test whether divisions could execute wet gap crossings during large-scale combat operations. The conclusion? It works, but engineer units and divisions aren't currently structured for large-scale combat operations. They need external resources to execute the mission. The solution isn't just more boats. It's more military occupational specialty, 12 Charlie Bridge crew members, who are already in critically short supply throughout the active Army, Army Reserve, and National Guard. It's more training infrastructure like the Gap Crossing Training Center being developed at Fort Cavazos. And it's doctrinal changes that push bridging capabilities closer to the units that need them. The M30 is one piece of that puzzle, but it's a critical piece. At peak production, Burden delivered one M30 every 3 business days from their Denver facility, 7 vessels per month. The boats are being fielded to multi-role bridge companies across the active Army, Army Reserve, and National Guard. The Puerto Rico Army National Guard, the 50th MRBC at Fort Leonard Wood, the 102nd Training Division, units everywhere are transitioning from the aging Mk2 to the new platform. And America's allies are watching. The Netherlands received its first BEBs in September 2024, with Sweden following in February 2025, both ensuring interoperability across the alliance. Where does this go next? The Army's Small Business Innovation Research Program has published solicitations for autonomous robotic bridging, systems designed for the future operational environment of 2040 and beyond. The explicit goal: remove engineers from the bridging mission entirely. Through ERDC Works, the Army Research and Development Center's Innovation Accelerator, Engineers are developing swarm-enabled systems that can coordinate multiple floating bays operating independently while maneuvering into bridge or raft configurations. Imagine a formation of unmanned craft receiving a mission, navigating to a river crossing site, and assembling a bridge without any human setting foot on the water. That's not science fiction. The core technology demonstrations have already happened, but the M30 isn't going anywhere. With a projected 20-year service life and hundreds of units being fielded, these boats will remain the backbone of Army wet gap crossing capability for at least another generation. The unmanned technologies being developed today are retrofits and enhancements, building on the M30's architecture rather than replacing it. Remember where we started. A Russian battalion tried to cross a river in Ukraine using outdated PMP pontoon bridge systems and was decimated within days. The lesson wasn't that river crossings are impossible. The lesson was that exposed soldiers, predictable tactics, and inadequate suppression are fatal. The M30 addresses part of that equation: better boats, smaller crews, ballistic protection, and now unmanned capability. But boats alone don't win wet gap crossings. The real solution is integration: fire suppression, air defense, obscuration, reconnaissance, and the coordinated movement of thousands of soldiers and vehicles across multiple domains. The M30 is the platform that makes the physical crossing possible. Everything else makes it survivable. The next time an American force needs to cross a river under fire, these boats will be in the water, and increasingly, the crews might not be. If you want to see more deep dives on the equipment that actually wins wars, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.